Hello.
Hey.
Hi. Welcome, everybody. So just to give a brief description of this panel, we're going to be discussing social media and JFashion, how it's affected JFashion culture, and we're going to be trying to give you some advice on how to further your reach while still not tying your self-worth to social media and trying to remain true and genuine and also socially accountable. Just to give some intros for everybody, my name is Mindy. My pronouns are she, her. I mostly wear Lolita fashion. I've been wearing it for about 5 years now. And I also sometimes dabble in Yume Kawaii, occasionally Decora, and Mori-K, just for fun. Okay. So, let's introduce next. Cake, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I'm Cake or Hannah. I mostly wear Lolita fashion. My pronouns are she, her. And I primarily, in terms of social media, I use YouTube. So you'll be hearing a lot of that from me today.
Stefano. Butt Cake, do you want to go next?
Yeah, hey, I'm Stefano. Most people know me as Butt Cake. My pronouns are she, her. I mainly wear Gothic Lolita, OG, Aristocrat, a little bit of like J-Punk, Visual K, and I've been wearing JFashion for about 10 years now. Ooh, that's a long time.
Kaiser, you want to go next?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Kaiser. I go by Curse Kaiser. Formerly used to go by Flex Galita online. I wear a lot of Lolita. I wear like lots of different styles too outside of Lolita. But I wear like Lolita, OG, like a lot of Gothic, sometimes old school. And I've been wearing like the fashion since I think 2008, 2009. Yeah. And I mostly post on Instagram as well.
Up60?
Yeah, my name is Ob6 Hui. My name is also Jessica. That's my birth name. It's fine. My pronouns are she, her. I've been a Gothic Lolita, Kura Lolita for about 8 years now, since 2012. Yeah.
Oh, I forgot my pronouns. She, they. Oh, yeah. So, yeah.
Cool. So we're going to start off just by talking about what social media we use and how we use them / what we use them for. For me personally, I use Facebook for things like events management. That's where I make a lot of events for my local community, and obviously the comms are all on Facebook right now. So that's what I use for that. And occasionally like Ruffle Chat and stuff, but I'm not super active on those. And then I also use Instagram a lot. Originally, I used it for just posting my outfit shots just because I kind of wanted to have a catalog. And I also used it for finding inspiration from other Lolitas. And then recently I've started using it a lot for actually like socially connecting to people because of being in shelter in place. It's been a great way to connect to people. So that's what I use social media for. Who wants to go next?
I'll go next for continuity. As I mentioned before, I do YouTube. That's like my primary source of content creation. But of course, like you branch into the other channels, Instagram, Twitter. I basically only have Facebook to like make sure I get invited to parties. So I feel like so many people do event management through those platforms or through Facebook. Basically, it's just there so I don't miss out on what's happening around me.
But Kate, you want to go next?
Okay, we got an order going.
That's what we're doing.
We'll get rid of the order in a bit, but for now.
Yeah.
So I'm all over the place. I started posting on social media as a teen because I was quite shy and needed like a way to connect to people. So like I guess my biggest platform is my blog, which I started to document my Lolita journey. That's where I post like long format content and upload like high resolution photos because like the other platforms will like compress them. Second, I'm on Twitter the most. Mainly I scream into the void, but I think it's easiest to interact there since it's so like casual. And then I am on Facebook too. I share my blog posts and I comment on Ruffle Chat a lot. It's the best for local comms. Because, like, I don't know, it's just event organizing is really easy on there. And I am on Instagram too, but I'm kind of bad at it. I just like posting things that I find interesting.
Yeah, I used to use Tumblr like a lot. I used to be like really, really, really super into Tumblr, and then like Tumblr kind of like died a little bit. I still post on there like till this day, but like not as much. And then I mostly, after Tumblr kind of went away, I migrated over to like Instagram and Facebook. I think those are the major ones. And I really, really like posting on Instagram just because I can post like a lot of images, a lot of information. And then the other thing that I've been using a lot lately is Twitter. And it's mostly because like I have like some friends that like not all my friends like in different countries have a Instagram, so I kind of keep up with them via Twitter. And I use a lot of social media to kind of like actually like try to like make friends and get to know people in different communities and just like actually socialize most of the time, and then also like post like any content I've created because like I'm an artist, you know, so I like to be super creative and like I want people to see my work, kind of a deal.
Yeah, I feel like I got started doing like LiveJournal because that's where the Lolita community originally was, and then I kind of went over to Tumblr in order to document my my outfits, and I didn't use it so much to socialize. I know that there was a community on Tumblr that you got to meet people, and that was I did get to meet people through Tumblr and stuff. But I feel like mostly I've met people through Instagram. It's been really good for that. I've used it for like reaching out to people, having conversations, that kind of thing. I use Facebook as well for event management. I don't go on any of the, I'm not on Ruffle Chat. I'm not on like any of the Lolita Facebook groups, but it's been really good for organizing events.
We just, I guess we were talking about this. We're not sure if Discord counts as social media since it's missing the media aspect, but we have recently started switching over to it for the social aspect of having like a place to chat with people.
Yeah, especially for like local communities. Yeah, we're using it for this event. Yeah.
So we some of us kind of touched on it already, but if anybody wants to talk about specifically what they get out of using any of their social media, like I think Kaiser mentioned that they use it for spreading their art and stuff like that. Does anybody have a specific thing that they wanted to mention that they didn't mention already? And also, what you don't get out of it.
I could say again, like for me, like it's also like I think being in alternative fashion and like being like I always talk about this, but like being Black and being in alternative fashion, like you don't really see like a lot of people like me, a lot of people darker than me, a lot of people different like sizes than I am. So I definitely use it to like kind of either inspire other people or seek out other people because like, you know, when I grew up in the Bronx, like it would be like me and one other person in the entire borough that I knew, you know, and then I got on the internet and it's like there's millions of people in New York. But when I got on the internet, it's like it made it a little bit smaller and I could find other people who look like me, other people who inspired me, and I could inspire other people as well. So yeah.
Yeah. When you like something so niche. When you like something that's so niche, like regardless of what platform you're using, you're just bringing that community right in front of you into your living room. It's definitely for me, even though like YouTube isn't the most interactive platform, it allows me to make my preferred type of content. Like I love expressing myself through making videos, and that's the type of content I like to consume. So no matter what platform you're on, however you're creating, you are attracting those like people to you. And especially in such a hyper niche community as this, it's vital. Otherwise, you're just alone floating around without anyone to really relate to on that level.
Especially right now.
Yeah.
I think we have all this online community.
In the comments, they're asking about if we're going to have contact points. We don't have any presentation or anything because this is just going to be like a live discussion. We're going to be bouncing off each other. So if you have any like questions for anyone in particular, feel free to reach out. And also, I see more questions. We're going to do a Q&A at the end. So you can ask all your questions then.
So yeah, I was going to mention, I think inspiration is a big thing for me, finding other people and learning from them and how they use different pieces and stuff like that, and becoming better myself at that because I see so many amazing people out there is really amazing. Yeah, very nice. And then I guess we also want to talk about what we don't get out of social media because it can mess with you sometimes, especially in like your mental health. And I think, Hannah, you wanted to talk about that?
Yeah, I'd love to start us off, but I think we all probably have something pretty significant to say in this area. It's it kind of goes back to what I was saying before, where as soon as you start creating content to a degree, you're putting yourself out there. Like, this is a representation of the things that you value the most and that you've put time and effort into creating. And it can be frustrating, like just from a human being wanting to belong perspective, it can be frustrating when you don't feel seen, when you don't feel like you actually belong in the community. If you're comparing yourself to other people's metrics, if you're seeing someone else getting lots of likes and you're not getting that, there's that tiny little part of your brain that, even though you know they're a different person, they're having a different experience than you, there's that just little bit of like, am I not good? Like, are the things I'm making stupid? And I think that is probably the first hurdle you have to jump over when you decide to start using social media, is just recognizing that if you place the value on the creation aspect and on the community aspect and finding your people, that's what's going to help you keep yourself honest, I think.
Yeah, I agree. It's hard, especially when you first start out, to think that like, oh, you're not getting as many likes as other people. But I think that, especially when it's something like maybe you made a quote or a picture or something that you were really proud of, and like you put so much of yourself into it, and then nobody else seems to get it. Yeah. That's kind of a hard thing. Yeah. So you definitely have to like separate yourself from that a little bit.
Yeah. Like, there's definitely a learning curve when it comes to posting content that is what is liked. And it doesn't mean that what you did was bad, but if you're starting out, you might not necessarily know how to like take good photos or use Photoshop, or like it's got nothing to do with anybody's self-worth. And like looking back on something later on, you might be like, oh, like, I have improved since then, but the fact that like you're putting things out and it's not getting likes or it's not getting acknowledgement doesn't necessarily have anything to do with, it could be like you're using the wrong tags. It could be like a myriad of things.
Yeah. And like the thing about like what you're talking about is right on. Like, social media, at the end of the day, I think a lot of people have to realize it's also a tool, and it needs to be used as a tool, and you shouldn't really be tying a lot of your self-worth and things like that to it, because it's also incredibly biased the way that it's set up as a tool. So it is set up with certain people in mind to succeed and not others. And it has nothing to do with you as a person individually and what you bring to a community and what you bring to the people around you. And I think like that social part, online, it's very, it's done in a certain way that you don't really get offline. Like, when you meet people offline, it's that's why I think this whole thing has been kind of hard for certain people, because meeting people online and having that connection person to person, there's nothing that can replace that. There's nothing that can like ever, make up for that face-to-face, like being around other people and really getting to know them. And then also the nuances. I think social media, like, it erases a lot of nuance from a lot of discussions, a lot of like how you kind of perceive yourself and how you perceive others. So I think it's really important to definitely keep those things in mind, that you really shouldn't tie your self-worth to it, because it can be incredibly damaging that way. And it can be damaging to others as well. So like, always keep that in mind, like,
Yeah. Another thing to think about. Oh, sorry. I'm just gonna say one more thing. It's like, think about what you are personally trying to get out of it. Like, do you want the acknowledgement because you want to feel better about yourself, or do you want it to get acknowledgement because you want to make friends and reach out to people? Like, you shouldn't be tied to the idea of getting likes or followers for the sake of doing it. You have to figure out why you want it.
For sure, because if you want followers, if you want to just connect with people, I think there's ways to do that using it and without worrying about a follower count or anything. So yeah, trying not to focus on the metrics definitely is a good idea. But Kip, did you have anything to add to this? Not pressure.
In the end, you have to use it for to satisfy yourself. Like, you shouldn't really like care what others think about you using it. I mean, as long as it makes you happy, that's what's important.
Yeah.
Sure.
Actually, I have a graph that supports this fact. If we could pull that up.
Excellent.
Yes.
So the
source.
the source is just my hot take. So this beautiful graph that I've created here, I think is a social media journey we can all kind of recognize, where you enter the foray, you're creating content, and that feels really good because you're expressing yourself, and it's helping you find that community. You're moving up on the happiness scale there, and you do start making friends. But I think that there always reaches a point where it just still doesn't feel real. And I think Kaiser kind of hit on that, where if you are limited only to online interactions, to a degree, that is the metric that you're rating yourself. And you may still feel that you don't belong because you can't quite make that connection. And what I've definitely done in the past, and I know other people have done as well, is that you may start straying away from what you started doing there, what got you there in the first place, like this intention of creating something that's special to you to communicate yourself. You move away from that to see if you can maybe get more likes, get a bit more clout, and that sucks, and it feels -5 bad. So if you're able to hopefully continue along this path and apply some critical thinking, you can kind of recognize, when did the happiness begin? It's when I was doing the things that interested me most. It's when I was making content that made me happy and attracted my people. If it's 5 people, then fantastic, love it. So take a quick depression nap and then get back to just doing it. And that has been my experience, at least using social media, is that you got to check yourself. You got like, sometimes I post photos of my dog and they only get 40 likes, and I'm like, well, I know for a fact my dog's perfect, so really I've done nothing wrong, and I can keep posting as many photos of her as possible.
I see a lot of people saying that they're in the depression nap stage.
Well,
and I feel like, especially right now, it's kind of the world is in a depression. So you're not alone with that, clearly. We're getting back to doing us, though. I hope we can all make it out of that.
Yeah, and like we should take, like, please take breaks. Like, please feel free. Like, I think that's also another thing. People feel a lot of pressure, like, oh, I have to keep making content or I'm gonna get lost or I'm gonna miss out, or like, take a break. Like, I promise you will thank yourself later if you take a break, like, from the constant like stream of consciousness that basically is social media. I really recommend that, because then you can go back to kind of like what Cake and Calamity was saying about, like, what was the things, why were you even on here to begin with? What was the thing that like really made you happy about posting, and what did you want to share with the world, and what did you want to say? And I think taking those breaks help you kind of reframe and like recenter yourself in that way. And I think that's like super important, especially for your mental health, and especially like, I know like a lot of us have to struggle with mental health on top of everything else, but don't add to it by, constantly being on social media and making things kind of a little bit worse for yourself. To feel free to give yourself a break. Like, please take a break. Like, please feel that that's okay.
Yeah, because like, fuck the algorithm. Like,
yeah, basically.
You don't have to post every day. You don't have to.
Yeah, you don't.
Yeah, 100%. I would say, even if you feel like you want to still look and see what other people are posting, if you still want to interact, that's okay. But don't feel like you need to post every day.
Yeah.
I definitely struggle with that myself, because I'm like, oh, it's been a few days, so I need to post again. But like, if you don't have anything you feel like you want to post, it's okay. Let it,
like,
let it.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Don't go on people's accounts and browse their things if you're feeling bad. Like, don't look at other people's stuff and be like, why aren't I doing this? And it's going to make you feel crappy, and you know it. Like, take a break from that too.
Mm-hmm. I would just say, I like to look at my friends, because then I'm like, yay. They make me happy. But definitely if like looking at somebody in particular is upsetting you, don't do that. And Stefano, you also wanted to talk about dealing with burnout, right?
Yes. I know it may not seem like it since I've been around forever, but I deal with burnout a lot. So tying back into the like mental health sphere, the first thing you can do is recognize signs of burnout. I'm not a doctor, but I compiled like a short list of some symptoms. So signs of burnout include exhaustion, or if you're not motivated to like look or post, feeling overwhelmed, and then like there's some physical signs as well. You can get like eye strain, you could like be losing sleep, and you can get headaches. Luckily, there are a few solutions to dealing with it. Everyone kind of deals with it differently. There's no like one right way to deal with it. But number one is take a break, like they were saying earlier. You can take a break. You're like not obligated to post because you don't owe anyone anything, really. Another favorite of mine is to go climb a mountain, but that's kind of hard here in Texas. We don't have mountains.
Climb any mountain.
Yeah, getting outside, just like not using like your phone or your computer, it gets you some like fresh air. Number three, you can curate your space. Personally, for me, if I follow too many people, my feed gets like overwhelming, and then like I'm like, oh my god, I can't check everyone's post, and then I just like never look at Instagram again. So I have to like occasionally like clean out like who I'm following to make sure it's like a sizable number that I can handle. It's okay to unfollow people, and you want to be following people who generally make your space positive, because you don't want to be always like doom scrolling.
How would you define doom scrolling? I'm just curious. I like that word. Oh, we lost Heather. I think their internet might be cutting out, but they'll be back.
Oh, doom scrolling is like when your feed is so negative and like you just can't stop. It's kind of like the entirety of 2020 right now. There's just like bad news happening like every day, and you just can't stop. But like you gotta stop, or else it'll like affect like your whole like vibe.
I will say, so with regards to doom scrolling, as you call it, I personally, just as a small tip, I personally stopped scrolling through my feed on Instagram. I started doing this because I hated the ads, but I think it has also helped with doom scrolling. Basically what I did is I cut down my amount of people I follow to like a reasonable amount. And then I turned on post notifications for all of them. And I don't know if any of y'all have been on the Instagram notification settings, but they are very fine tuned. Like you can change what you get notifications for on Instagram to like everything. Like I turned off likes because those are just spam. And so you can turn on specific things, and I turned on post notifications for the people I like really care about, and so I see the things that I care about as as they happen, and like don't have the like algorithm hiding things from me. And I found that has just been that has been so helpful for me. So yeah, check notification settings and maybe turn on post notification settings for the people like you really care about. That would be my tip.
Good tip.
Yeah.
And if you spend too much time on social media, you can like start tracking and scheduling how much time you actually spend on these. I think iPhones have it built in, like how they track how much time you spend on an app. I don't use an iPhone, so correct me if I'm wrong.
No, yeah, I use that. I use that, and I get notifications, and it'll be like, oh, you've been using it. Like, and I can tell, like, also you can like kind of track your stress that way too, because I could tell if I had a really stressful week, I was on social media extra, and like I started thinking about things like that, like, oh, you know what, like I must be really stressed out. Let me get off of this, because it'll tell you, it'll be like your usage was up like 10% last week, and I'm like, last week was crappy, so yeah.
You know how fast you've been scrolling?
That's correlation. Does anybody else have any Instagram tips or tips for other social medias that they want to share? I think we're in that section now. If tips on like usage and like anything about, we can talk about helping you further your reach, since that is part of what this topic is about.
I could like say like if you're not burning out dealing with all those things, but if you're constantly browsing social media is really great because you can tell what's trending and what's happening pretty easily. And I think like for your content, like even if you're like, super like into like Gothic Lolita, or you're super into like a certain aesthetic, if there's like I want to say it's like a co-trending, like a aesthetic that maybe yours will fit into, like, for example, if you're like Maury and you want to like fit your stuff into cottagecore or like, things like that, I think pay attention to those things because it can help further your reach just outside of the like Lolita community itself, if that's what you want. Like, I know some people only want to be in the community, but I know some people want reach outside of it. So I think like paying attention to the trends and seeing how it applies to your social media and the content you create is super important, just so that you can, it's basically like you're riding a wave. So you're like, oh, look at this wave. I want to get on my surfboard and like, you know, figure out, you know, do what I got to do. So I think it's really important. And it'll help further your reach to pay attention to those things and how they apply to you.
That's a really good tip. And yeah, you mentioned before about making it your own as well.
Yeah, make it your own. Like I did this thing called like, it was like a skate witch. Like, cause I was like, oh, witchy stuff is trending and roller skating is trending. And I just happened to like these two things. And I was like, what if I mash them together? And then that's kind of how you start getting into the whole thing of like making your own trends. You know, you take two things and then you go, whoop, and you make a sandwich, and then you have an amazing like piece of content that everyone relates to and think is really cool and different, even though it's like a combination of things that are already out there and existing.
And I'm the perfect case study, because when I saw that post, I was like, well, I now know what I'm doing this afternoon. I didn't have direction, and now I do. Skate witch, only skate witch. Yeah.
Nice. And I think with that, it goes with like popular hashtags as well. I don't know how the hashtags work. I think you can use hashtags on YouTube, but for Instagram in particular, it's important to tag your stuff with relevant hashtags. Don't just spam a bunch of hashtags. The limit is 30, but you really don't want to use all 30. But if you find a hashtag that's trending, like witchy vibes or something like that, and you have a content that matches that, or you can make content that still is personal to you and match that hashtag, then that helps.
Yeah. And another tip about the hashtags is try, like, you'll see it, because that's the cool thing now is you can see now the numbers of posts in that tag. Don't post into a tag that has over 1 million. Yeah. It will get drowned out. So if you see it, it'll be like hashtag, you know, Lolita Fashion. And Lolita Fashion, I think, is getting to that point where it's almost hitting 1 million. I think it was like at 973K or something last time I looked. So you might want to start I also know it's kind of like, might be shadow banned or something, but people are still posting in it. Go away from that and get really specific, like, you know, sweet Lolita, gothic aesthetic, like sweet aesthetic, pastel aesthetic, because when you post into those tags that have someone who's going to have way more followers than you is going to be easily visible compared to someone who doesn't. So always post, like, I even say, like, try to do like under 100K, because that means that 100K people might run into your content, but 1 million people, like, they're just going to go to the most popular. So just, it'll show you the number. Pay attention to that when you're posting those trending hashtags, because your stuff will just get drowned out otherwise.
Yeah. And if you want to know which hashtags are the ones to use, maybe go to the people that you already follow and like you have a similar style to, or, you know, like you're in that category. Oh, my headband. And look at the tags that they use and use those tags if they're ones that are like that apply to you.
But I would say don't be afraid to. No,
go ahead.
Go ahead. I was going to say, don't be afraid to use non-JFashion specific hashtags as well, because maybe someone is not into JFashion or they haven't discovered it yet, but you can help them discover it by adding something like witchy vibes. Or for me, I sometimes, because I do a lot of hairstyles, I will like tag it with like cool braid or something like that. I don't know if that actually helps, but I think maybe somebody else will discover it. Yeah.
There are also some softwares, like later.com has a tool that helps you explore hashtags. So you can put one in and it will suggest hashtags to you. And it also will let you know, like as Kaiser was saying, it'll let you know which ones are mega popular and which ones have fewer tags being used. So you can like really strategize in that way if that's what you want to be doing. Like if you want to like play the game, there are tools that can help you do it, and it kind of takes the stress off. Like, kind of speaking back to butt capes, like burnout, like going through people's posts and like trying to like create a digital marketing strategy for yourself. That's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of work, and like
people's jobs.
You can make it easier on yourself. Like if it's something that you're taking seriously and you want to save more energy for the creation process, like outsource, get some software, and it can help you do that strategizing way faster.
Do you have to pay for later?
I believe later is free under a certain tier, like certain functionalities you have to pay to unlock. But I know it has certain aspects of it are free. And yeah, it's a platform that I've used professionally, like doing digital marketing, and it was extremely useful for us.
All right, one of my eyes is watering. Don't mind me.
It's because you love hashtags so much.
No. Oh my gosh. When I first joined like Instagram and I was trying to figure out how hashtags work, it's just like, these are so, like, I get it because it's easier for the algorithm to find things and categorize things and know what to recommend to people, but it's still, it's an annoying thing to get used to, for sure.
And I think, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to ask, do hashtags, are they used on YouTube a lot, Kate? Do you know?
I forget. I used to have this information when I was doing digital marketing, and then I was just like, I don't have to do this anymore. I don't need to have knowledge.
No one's paying you.
Yeah, exactly. You can tag. You can put tags in. I do know last time I checked, there were certain tags that were shadow banned, like the L word, Lolita. A lot of people have done some terrible things with that word, and sometimes you just can't use it places. So I know there was some problems there on YouTube. I still, when I upload, I will tag what's happening in that video. So, you know, if it's to do with Lolita fashion, I'll put in a tag along those lines. If I'm wearing a certain brand dress, I will tag that brand, because sometimes that thumbnail is enough. Like if people are searching angelic pretty and they see a person wearing an angelic pretty dress in the thumbnail, it's like, this is a pleasant user experience for me. I looked up a term and I saw a thing. Perhaps this is where I'm supposed to go. So yeah, there's a few. I think it's kind of the same strategy. Being aware of terms that might put you in the wrong silo is an issue, but also just sort of playing it from different angles. Like if you're incorporating a different style, maybe tag that as well. Like see if you can sort of expand your little Venn diagram.
Yeah. Kaiser, you were saying something before. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, can I remember? Like when you're using a lot of the hashtags and stuff like that too, because I think someone was talking about like shadow banning. That's like, it's something you kind of can't help. And you can't, I know people always come out with these lists like these are shadow banned, and sometimes it's like obvious, sometimes you're not sure. You're not getting a lot of this information from people that actually work at these companies themselves. So be aware of like when people are like, oh, this is like shadow banned. It takes a lot of research to kind of figure that out. I know Lolita definitely was one of them. Because it was getting to the point where I think it was even affecting some of the Facebook groups, and they had to like change how their naming and stuff like that, so they weren't getting like deleted. So it is sometimes very obvious like that, but sometimes it's not. Like a lot of like activist hashtags, depending on what platform you're using, get shadow banned. So that's why I talk about things like algorithmic bias, like you're banning people for speaking out, you know, that's kind of like a form of censorship, yada, yada. So sometimes too, if you know you're being censored, figure out ways to get around it. Like you're not going to like write a sternly worded letter to Facebook and tell them to change their mind. They're not going to do it. So make sure that if you have a message that's really important that you want to get out there, that you're using kind of like sneaky ways to get around being shadow banned, you know, that's like super important.
Yeah. In terms of, oh yeah.
No, go ahead.
Oh, in terms of furthering your social media reach while remaining genuine, I feel like there is this kind of, I wouldn't call it a problem, but you know, when you are trying to further your social media reach for the sole purpose of getting likes and follows, and you do it like really like you like do like a formula almost for like doing your posts, it can seem, you know, it gets obvious and it seems
it's like it feels disingenuous, right?
Yeah. Like so, you know, going back to like figure out why you want to do this and do it in a way that makes it seem like you care, because we want to believe that you do. It's not like just for clout.
Yeah.
Yes. I feel like having genuine interactions on social media is tricky, but I think it can be done, and that's really what you want. Like that's the best thing to get out of. I mean, the point of it is to be social, right? So like making new connections with people, I think, is one of the best things you can get out of social media, because lots of likes is great, but if you like haven't actually talked to anybody, are you really getting anything out of it? Yeah.
What do you guys think about pods? Do those work?
Oh.
Should I go? Like, I'm like, they're okay. Like, they're okay. I think
can we
that,
describe
like,
what a pod is? Just for
yeah. A pod is like, isn't it like when you're with a group of people who have like either similar or higher follower counts than you, and you're like talking and like, is it coordinating like posts and things like that together?
Like all
interact with each other's posts
and comment on each other's stuff, I believe.
Yeah, because you're like trying to beat the algorithm.
Yeah, and the more comments and likes, the more like interactions you get per post, in theory, like it's gonna make it so more people see it. Yeah,
and like I used it like one time, I think, in the past with a group of people. It was the only thing that was cool is that I think they only really work if you're doing it with people way outside of what you do. Like I did it with like a friend that like she's like super into like nerdy stuff, and like she posts just different things than what I post, and that kind of worked. But I don't think it works as well as like the thing I try to do is get posted by like way bigger accounts. Like I'll like be like, oh, I want Sugar Pill, like so I'll tag all my Sugar Pill stuff, or I want like, you know, Killstar, so I want like, you know, I'll tag, and then they'll repost it, and then usually that works way better, I feel like, than trying to do a pod personally.
Someone actually mentioned
just comment on your
someone mentioned that they think that pods are shadow banned or deprioritized from the algorithm, and I do think they used to work better than they do now. I think the algorithm has become more sophisticated.
I've heard of doing it, but I have not done a pod, so I don't know.
Yeah,
I feel like I do organic pods where like I see my friends post and I'm just like, yeah. I feel like I have
comment on their stuff.
Yeah, I think that's how it sort of works for me, is that like when I see my friends post, I'm just like, everyone, they need to know how great they are and how they're doing so great, and I need to be the one to tell them. And I feel that back from them as well. Like when I post, I always get like the core crew just being like, yes, fantastic, excellent, yes, continue.
Yeah. And you don't need like a pod for that. Like you don't need a pod to like support your friends. Like you really don't. Like I have like tons of people I follow that I'm like, oh my god, this post they did is really cool, I was gonna post it. Like I don't have to think like, oh, like let's like have a discussion and what you
like,
say.
Are you going to like buy stuff if I like your stuff?
Yeah. I noticed some people, some friends of mine, they take posts they really like and they put them in their stories, which I think is cool. I feel bad that I don't reciprocate this, but it's just because I don't think of it when I see the post, and then it feels weird to do it like a day later when I remember. But I appreciate them doing that. That is one way to do it. It does feel better to do it organically, though, to like don't just ask them to share things, or don't share things just to share things, but actually like share things you think you want other people to see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Someone said the pod is like for like or follow for follow. It's kind of similar, except that it's in a like group of people that continuously do it over and over with each other, as opposed to the follow for follow thing. I always thought was weird.
I don't think those tags are flooded with bots, so I would stay away from them. Like also stay away from tags that like that, because bots, get away from the bots. You don't want like bots on your account.
Bots are weird. I have some people that I'm like, are these bots? They post. I have one person who posts like a bunch of emoticons on like every single post I post, but they're different every time. Are you a bot?
Wow. Maybe it's like,
or do you just only exclusively communicate through emojis? I don't know.
So, this is in the comments right now. There is a question that's kind of relevant to what we're discussing right now. It says, can we talk about the community aspect in making friends via social media? How it's like how to navigate and read if it's okay to message someone. Are we going over that, or is that are we bringing
that is planned to discuss? Yes.
Okay,
I was going to mention that too. Yeah. We are going to. We can talk about it now if we want. Like we don't have to go in the order that we have the comments.
It seems relevant to what we're discussing.
Yeah. If you want to talk about it, go ahead.
Yeah. Let's see. Let me read this question. How to navigate and read if it's okay to message someone, if it's okay to see if someone wants to virtually hang out after messaging, and etiquette for making friends online. Yeah, this is a really weird thing to kind of navigate. I think I've been able to make friends because it grows organically, and you kind of have to do it slowly. Like, you don't want to shock someone with like, hey, I want to be your friend, and then the other person will be like, I don't know you, like, why are you, like, especially if it's like, especially if you're someone, like, if there's one person with like a lot of followers and one person with a little few followers. It's not to say like you can't be friends, because that would be weird to say that. It's just that, you know, someone with more followers is going to have a lot of people messaging them, and also they're going to be more, they're more suspicious of other people like trying to use them for reach.
Yeah,
So Jessica, because like I met you like online, like I used to follow you and like all your stuff, and then like we used to like kind of and like we were like sometimes like commenting on each other, and then like I remember I was like, oh, I'm going to Fanime, and then I'm like, oh, Jessica's gonna be at Fanime, and I'm like, and then like we kind of just messaged each other. It really takes a while, and it has to be very like, you have to just be really careful of how you come off, and you have to be hyper aware. And I know that sucks because that's not always how it is, but in real life, when you make friends, because you have the luxury of hanging out all the time, but just take your time with getting to know the person. And like, you know, it's a lot of like social cues and like reading, and like, are they responding? Like, are they not responding? And then not getting obsessive over it. You know, like all these things are really important. But it happens organically, because like what happened with Jessica, I was just like, oh, you're going to be a fan of me. I was like, hey, do you want to like, even if it was just to meet up and take like a selfie and say hi, you know, like that was like the first, like, you know.
I think like the first year we just like saw each other, took a picture together, and then like we were both busy, so we didn't like super hang out or anything. But like the next year after that, we hung out. Like, so, you know, and then like you keep in contact with your online friends. I think the best way to try and start a connection with someone, if you feel like you really like connect with them, is maybe like just comment on their stuff in a way that's not like, you have to kind of comment like on specific things, not like, oh my god, like so cool, or like, you know, you want to be like, oh, I really like appreciate this specific thing, like, you know, do you want to like, you know, if that person is willing to start a conversation with you, and you have like a casual conversation in the comments, it's not weird then to like bring it into like direct messages and be like, you know, like, oh, like, you know, I saw this thing, I thought about you, or like, you know, like that kind of thing.
Make it something specific and something you can like have in common. I think definitely helps. I like whenever I see somebody's story and they have something that like feels something that I actually have like a genuine comment on, I will respond. And that's been the easiest way for me to make connections on social media, is like responding directly about something. That's been nice. And then sometimes like it just organically have a conversation on DMs, and that's fun.
Yeah.
Sure. Did we answer that question? I hope we did.
Yeah, that's more like a friendship question. And like we can deal with like community stuff, like building community stuff. Or we can do that.
Right. Because you're sort of doing that now. You're trying to build the community online for the Bay Area Com, essentially.
I mean, I feel like we already have like a really strong basis, but
we do, yeah. But building one from nothing might be harder.
Yeah, no, definitely.
It's hard when you can't meet people in person.
Yeah, I don't know what it's like to have to try and build, like, if you're in a location which just doesn't have that many other people who like JFashion. I imagine that's really difficult and, you know, hard to find people. I think in another panel, people were talking about there being like a spreadsheet for communities. If you want to find your like online community and you want to like be able to meet up with them in person, obviously not now. But just in terms of building up, like what you can do for how you can use social media to build up your own community, is like, you know, you can do like, you like right now we're doing like online events. You can host stuff on Discord. You can host stuff on Zoom. I've seen people do like interviews with each other on Instagram Live. You know, you can do the thing where like you tell people like, oh, I'll post a picture of you on my story if you want it. Like I'll post a bunch of pictures of like all my friends and stuff. So just let me know if you want to be posted. There's a lot of things you can do to like boost specifically your friends and people who maybe need, like they want a little bit more acknowledgement, and to like build more of a sense of like friendship and bonding.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
Did anybody else have any other comments on that? Otherwise, we could probably move on to a different topic. How does the community stuff work on YouTube and like blog posts? Just curious. Can you have a community with blog posts? I don't know. It seems sort of like a little bit one-sided, so I wonder.
Yeah, it's there can be a community, but in Lolita, it's not super active. So that's why most Lolitas use like social media to get like the community aspect.
Back in the day, wasn't there what was it, like Lolita Carnival?
Yeah, we still have that. It's just like there's only like a few bloggers left.
Yeah. All you new Lolitas in the comments. If you want to look at blog posts, there's a community.
Oh.
And on YouTube, they do have the community tab now. Like as a creator, you can post messages and people can comment in response to them. Like you can to a degree use it as like a very like minimalistic blog. I've only done that a couple times, like to announce like a collaboration that I was doing. And I think just to sort of like poll people on what they would like to see happen next. But in terms of like that actual like true community building and that true connection, I think that like that happens really more on the Facebook, the Instagram, like whether it's the groups or through DMs or just like commenting on each other's posts. I think YouTube's a great starting place, but it's hard to flourish there. It's hard to like do a very smooth interaction with someone, or at least I've found it that way. Maybe other people are capable, but I'm not.
It sort of ties in, I think, and we've touched on this topic a few times, but how do, outside of using social media for actual social connections, I wanted to talk about spreading information and maybe misinformation on social media, especially when it comes to activism and not to get too into it, but political things and stuff like that, and like world events and things going on. For me, I just wanted to say the thing that I've been struggling with is, I mean, obviously Facebook is not great about, the misinformation tends to spread really easily on Facebook. And so just being aware of it, I think helps, and knowing how to research something and look into it and actually find out, did that really happen? And don't just repost something. And I actually do see this happening on Instagram sometimes too, especially with the new wave of activism that's been happening. Occasionally things are just not correct, and you don't know that just from seeing the first post. So I maybe hesitate to repost things right away unless like there's something that just makes sense. But even then, be a little wary and careful of that, because misinformation can spread really easily. But it's also been really great for activism, which has been exciting to see. Which I think, Kaiser, you want to talk about, right?
Yeah. Like I follow, like, for me, I think because the way I grew up and everything like that, I'm not an activist. Like that's like the first and foremost thing. I don't ever claim to be an activist, but do I follow a lot of activists? Do I read what they research, what they put together and things like that? Absolutely. Do I elevate their voices? Absolutely. Because I think, like, for me as a person, like being marginalized and having the struggles that I've had, it's really important to kind of see how the world affects me, how it affects other people around me, and having like that empathy for others and kind of elevating their voices in that space. And I think it's great to use to think about activism in that way if you are yourself not an activist, because the thing is that, like, you have to realize that those people are out there risking their lives, their livelihoods to kind of make the world better for all of us. So the minimum thing that we could do is not take up their space and to really elevate their voices. So I post a lot of like other people's, like from their feeds, from what they have to say. And it comes from like when I was on Tumblr and when I used to be like, you know, on LiveJournal, all these other things, just reading up about like, you know, my place in the world and like how it affects others and like what privileges I have, how can I help other people? And I think I always say what's on my mind a lot too. And that's kind of because of the way that I grew up. So yeah, like I think it's great to use social media for activism, but just be aware that sometimes like you're not the activist. the person that told you the information is. Make sure that they're being centered in the conversation, not you. Because I think that's where it gets kind of like into a weird gray area. So it's really important to like elevate someone else that is doing the work, that is putting the fundraisers together, that is out there marching, that is out there speaking out, that is risking their livelihood and everything like that to make it better for all of us. Like that's super, super important. And I think it's like great to want to do that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And on that note, if anyone wants to learn about being more involved in like any kind of JFashion activism group, there is a panel coming up. So attend that.
Yeah.
Do it.
Go to that panel. Go to that panel.
It is at 6 p.m. Eastern time, 3 p.m. Pacific time, so it's a couple hours. Definitely check that out. It's the Kawaii Riot panel. They're doing. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Going off what Kaiser said, I don't consider myself an activist either, but like I do agree everyone should have rights. You know, lately I've been trying to like. Lately I've been trying to put things into like the scope of JFashion, you know, because like some people might think like, oh, what does racism just have to do with JFashion?
Doesn't affect me.
But yeah, that's a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
So like I had 3 posts recently that did pretty well. It's like 2 of them are a big list of Black-owned kawaii brands and a big list of Black-owned goth and punk brands. Even though I'm not Black myself, I was able to like amplify these creators and their shops and like link to resources people could read. And then another one I did was how to save the USPS JFashion edition. I made a cord like collage using one of the official merch from the USPS, and like a lot of people started tagging me in the USPS cords after that.
You started the whole trend.
Yeah, see?
Wonderful. I loved it.
Like, even like baby San Francisco made cool.
Yeah, that was so cool. That was really awesome.
Yeah, even if you're not an activist, you can help like promote these voices.
Amplify,
Yeah, and I think that's like so important. Like, and a lot of people don't think of that because they're like, oh well, like examine your bias, all those other things, but also amplify other people's voices, listen to what other people have to say, figure out how you can help yourself, because everybody has kind of their place in helping in some way, shape, or form. And like even if it's something really small, like, you know, sharing really cool like coordinate, like, or sharing like a list of other people that you could support, like that helps so much in the bigger conversation.
Yeah.
And I think it's a really good prompt for other people to start widening their circles. Like when I see someone like Buttcape shares someone else's content, I click into it and it's like it's a wake-up call for me, because I have to kind of face that my circle is limited. It could be so much more inclusive. I could be hearing so many more voices. And it's never been a conscious decision to exclude any group of people. But once you start including those people, you start following them, and you recognize, even though, you know, you're always trying to be a good person who supports other people, you can always be doing a little bit more. You can always be listening a little bit harder. So that's been my favorite thing, is when people are exposing me to things I just didn't know before. And I think that's important for all of us, is to, even though if you feel like you're making good progress, there's always more progress to be had. And I think that just comes from widening your circle and just making sure you're listening.
Yeah. And like on that note, I feel like there's a lot of there's maybe like a loud minority of people who are like, oh, like I don't want any of this like political activism stuff in my JFashion. Like I want to use it as escapism. And like to that, please remember that some people don't get to deal with the same kind of escapism that you do. When they enter the JFashion, they have to deal with the same kinds of like comments and the same problems that they have in life, that they like in the JFashion as they do in the outside world. And we want to make JFashion as inclusive and like as enjoyable for them as it is for you.
Yeah, like and that's why like it's important to have as many people in the space and be as inclusive as possible, because even like someone like me, like I've had like you know, comments thrown at me on social media that I'm just like, that like, and at first I didn't really understand, like, why would someone say something so horrible? And it was like, you know, something about my skin tone, or something about my hair texture, or something about like my size. And it's like, I didn't ask for those comments. They were just thrown at me. So that's kind of why what we're talking about, like, you know, some of us can't escape those things. Like, we have to deal with them and also be in this fashion. And like, we just want to be here just like everyone else and not really be bothered by things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Someone mentioned it is a privileged thing to say we want to keep the politics out.
Yeah.
But JFashion, I mean, with any community, it needs to be inclusive. And sometimes that inclusion needs to be more active. And I think that we're at that point where we're trying to make it more active, and to say that, like, I don't want to hear about it is, yeah, it's really bad.
Yeah, no, it's ignorant.
So I want to let, I'm hoping we're not stepping on Kauai right. We'll let them talk about it more and how to get more involved with that. I'm sure that's going to be part of the topics. I'm excited to see their panel. So I think we skipped over one thing with the tips and tricks section, which was photo and video editing tips.
Oh, yeah.
I was gonna say, I don't have great tips for this because I just use my phone.
Yeah.
I have a little $20 tripod that I got from Amazon. I actually had one that was $10 and then it broke. There
it
is. I used to use a timer on my phone, and now I just use a clicker. The one I got came with a little clicker, which is helpful, although you can like see it in the picture, which is not great. So I also try really hard to use natural lighting, which is not always possible, and like getting a nice background and everything. So I don't have a lot of tips and tricks. This is what I'm trying to say. Unfortunately, that's my one. That's how I do it. But I don't know. I'm sure I could be doing better. Who wants to talk about that?
I also don't do a lot for my photos, except I will say that please check your phone settings and see if you have a function where you can yell at your camera to take a picture of you. So, because then you don't clicker, just yell.
Yeah, there you go. Like that.
I didn't know that. I should check if mine has it.
I have a not an iPhone and also not a Samsung. It's a
question mark.
LG. It's an LG. But it has a setting where, like, if you yell like smile or if you yell like something like any kind of keyword, it'll take a picture. So you just turn that on, you put it on a tripod, you stand far away, and you yell at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I had that.
Yeah, right? Take my picture.
Do it.
I do the whole put camera on tripod, set timer, run around across the room for like 100 shots, and then I'll have like 2 good shots.
Yeah.
Get like a little exercise in doing that. That's what I used to do until I got the clicker. So yeah, I understand.
I use, like, because for me, I use a mirrorless DSLR actually to take a lot of I use a combination of both my phone and DSLR. It just depends on what it is. But the reason why I use a DSLR is because the mirrorless tends to be smaller, so you can kind of get similar quality to DSLR. You're not going to spend the same amount of money, and you can still do things like change out. Yeah, like. There you go. The mirrorless DSLR to the left and then a regular DSLR to the right. So it's kind of, I think, Buckhead, you have like a DSLR, right? Like the really nice, like big one. And then,
this is a mirrorless.
Mirrorless. Oh, it is? Oh, geez. Well, so big. Well, I have that one.
It's usually like this big, but I have like a battery pack. That's
Okay. That makes sense. So yeah, I have like that one on the left, and it's really great because it's compact. You can put it in a purse. You can take it anywhere. No one's gonna like yell at you if you're like taking pictures in public spaces. Because I think when people see like the big camera, they're like, "What are you doing?" So that's a really great solution. You can still change out the lenses. Also, what that one has in particular that's really good is it has a phone app, and a lot of DSLRs may have this where you can basically the clicker's your phone, and you can set a timer on your phone. So you basically take the picture, you hit you hit the green button, you put it down, you put your phone wherever, you can pose for your picture, and you can have it take several photos of you, and it goes directly to your phone. So that's like a really good one. Yeah, and then I use like Lightroom, Photoshop to like, I only edit so I do edit my photos, but it's mostly for color because sometimes the lighting is just not great wherever you're taking a photo. Yeah, so Lightroom, Photoshop, there's like there's like free versions, I think, of like programs similar to Lightroom, DSLR. or phone. All those things are great. Bless you. Yeah.
Kaiser, there's a question in the comments, and since you use both phone and camera, I'm not sure if you want to answer. How important is it to have a high quality camera versus using a smartphone?
It's starting to become not really that big of a difference, depending like if you have a newest version of a phone versus like a DSLR. The thing I like about the DSLR though is that it is more high quality. Once you have both, you'll see the difference. But I think when you're posting online, like I know people who have like super professional accounts that only use the latest iPhone or the latest like Samsung or latest LG phone. So it's a personal preference and it's a budgetary thing too. Because sometimes like if you have to pick between a phone and a new camera, you know, the phone, you're going to get more bang out of it. Like in terms, you know, you got to text, you got to call, social media, everything. A camera is a camera. But a camera does, like I shot like my fashion walk video, I shot it on the mirrorless DSLR. I don't think I could have done that on my phone as well, because you know, there's a really big difference between those two things, but it just depends on the person and what you can afford and what you're looking for.
I think you can get by like 99% of things with just a phone.
I do all my filming on my phone.
See?
Everything that I do for YouTube, I do it on my phone. Just once, I mean, of course, I have like a fantasy Amazon wish list of like $5,000 worth of equipment. But when it comes down to it, I'm just like, this is good enough. And that's exactly what I'm shooting for. It's just, this will enable me just enough to do the thing I need to do.
Definitely don't invest until you like get into it. Like try with what you have first, for sure. Yeah.
And sometimes like the end software is more important. Sorry, like like the thing that you use to edit is more important.
On that note, I only like recently discovered that iPhones have pretty good editing software. If you go into like a thing and scroll, the shadows is especially useful. So it will just like there we go. It'll just like make shadows disappear, which is very useful. It's much better than brightness or exposure. And then there's vibrance and vibrance. There we go. Sorry, I can't like look at the phone and do this. There we go. And then saturation are the two other like color things. And I find that helps. It doesn't like whitewash things as much. So that's a better, these are like features that I just discovered the iPhone had. So just sharing. Yes.
Oh, okay. Were you gonna say something? Or sorry.
Don't worry too much about your gear as someone who has a lot of gear. Like if you want to get into photography, then maybe you can look into like a beginner camera. But like realize that it is actually like more of an investment than just the camera. You have to get the software, you gotta get the lights, blah, yada, yada, yada. But the phones, you can like, they do, when you take a picture on a phone, it already does some processing for you. And then like you can get some like free apps. Like I think like Snapseed, there's Lightroom Mobile. Those are like two really powerful phone editing apps, and they're both free.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
And if you're not posting like anywhere else besides like Instagram or Facebook, phone quality is great because like if you take like a full resolution like JPEG, it's gonna get compressed anyway.
And like what Buckcape is saying is true about like the quality. Like I think if you were posting professionally on like a website and you need to do a portfolio, then you need like higher quality gear. But if like, you know, you're just posting on Instagram or Twitter or something, it's probably not a big deal.
Agreed.
Cake, do you have any video editing tips? Since we're mostly talking about pictures, but
not really from an aesthetic level. Like Buckcape was saying, basically your software is going to help you a lot. But just from like a creator hot tips kind of angle, my biggest learning has been you don't need to show as much as you think you need. Like guaranteed 90% of what you shoot, you're just gonna ditch. Like it's nice to have the footage, but what's way nicer is actually planning your shots, but beforehand, kind of figuring out what is my video. That way you can give yourself a quick little shot list of what you definitely need to capture to tell that story. And it's just going to help you so much because I've spent so much time digging through literally hours of footage looking for like a 3-minute clip that I ended up cutting down to like 20 seconds anyway. You need much less time, and actually with our attention spans the way they are right now, people won't stick around. Like if you can do one thing, my recommendation would be to figure out how to just do it faster, tell your story faster, and it's gonna save you time. You're gonna shoot less, you're gonna spend less time editing, and you get to enjoy that moment of I made a thing sooner. Not that the creative process isn't fun in its own way, but like for me personally, I'm in it for the final result. I'm in it for the win of I had an idea and now it's real. That's what I want. And anything you can do to expedite that process is going to make it a much more enjoyable experience for you, in my opinion.
Yeah. On a video editing note, we just learned this for Sea of Serenity because we were talking to the JFashion on demand people. But if you want a free program that is pretty darn good for being free, like it's not Windows, video editor, it's DaVinci Resolve. Get that? It's really good. If you don't have the money to pay for Adobe Suite.
Yeah. Good tips. And then we're also wanting to talk about the edit ethics, of picture and video editing, particularly picture editing, because so many people will edit. Having a good edit app is nice, but making sure to stay genuine with yourself, because so many of the things like slim your face, or like I can understand maybe covering a blemish, but changing like your actual face shape or your skin color, try to avoid that, because trying to like conform to certain beauty aesthetics is just, they change. So for example, the like freckle trend right now, I know people that got lasers on their face to get rid of their freckles, and now Sephora is selling freckle pens because freckles are in trend right now. So I just stay true to yourself. You're beautiful. Trust that you are beautiful. Don't change who you are to match some stupid aesthetics. That's my take with that.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I think you need to like not get into that mode of like wanting to fix every single like little thing. Like I said, I edit my photos. It tends to be a lot of color correction. Like it's mostly like, let me get the color right, because sometimes, my skin will be too blown out or my skin will look weird. So then I have to go in and like manually fix that. But just short of that, like I don't like really see the need of like, oh, I'm gonna make myself like skinnier. I'm gonna make myself, because the thing is that you're gonna go back and look at that picture and give yourself a freaking panic attack. Like honestly,
like, that's not me.
You're gonna be like, that's not me. What the hell is this? Like, and it's not really healthy for you, and it's not healthy for the people that are following you, because then they have this like really unrealistic expectation. And we went through this whole thing with like calling out fashion magazines for over editing, the models on the covers, and now we're like on social media doing the same thing again, and it's like, oh my god, exactly. And I think that makes when you don't do stuff like that, then people look at the images and they're kind of like, oh, this is what a person looks like, like not like this very fantasy person that doesn't really exist.
Yeah.
That's something I struggle with, because I'll see myself in the mirror and I'll be like, fantastic, incredible. Yes. And then I take a photo and I'm like, this is not an accurate representation of me.
Yes.
And that temptation to just like nip, tuck, smooth, like to fix how I view myself and how this cursed photo is choosing to portray me is real. But I think to Mindy's point is that we need to become more comfortable with the fact that photos do look a little different. Like people sometimes look a little different depending on what angle, the lighting, how much sleep they've had. Like we need to become a lot more comfortable of not perfect representations of ourselves. Or maybe just me, but I think other people also encounter this, where it's just like, I know I'm cute, and this photo is being rude.
Yeah.
It's hard to find the balance.
Yeah. Sometimes angles are not your friend.
No.
It like flattens you. The thing with seeing someone in real life is there's dimension, and you can see that, but the photo like is all of that, and so that can really change how it's perceived.
And like a camera is a tool again. Like it's just a tool to try to capture what the human eye has more nuance for. Like always remember that. Like a camera is not a human eye. Your eye can pick up way more interesting things than a camera ever will. And even like different lenses have like different curvatures. Curvatures give you distortion. Like there's all these, like, I think that's another thing too. So I think people don't understand quite from a technical standpoint how photography can hurt or harm you. And things like that are really important, like, you know, the lens and the curvature and, like, you know, the lighting, like all those things kind of play into what the end photograph is. But your eye is way better than that, you know? Like, this is just like, so when, like what you just said, like Cake and Calamity, like, oh, I look really good, but this photo is not doing me justice. It's like, you know, everyone's gonna see you and be like, wow, you look amazing. And then you look at the photo and you're like, this doesn't capture like how amazing I look. And it's really frustrating, you know? But understand that.
I really like this quote that Petite Madeline put in the chat. You know how you try to take a picture of the moon, but it doesn't look as pretty as it does in person?
Yes.
That's what's going on with pictures of you too. I like that quote. It's a good quote. Yeah.
I like to think of it like I cannot be captured in a 2D as it is because I'm just that great.
Yes.
I do prefer videos.
Yeah. Do we have any camera tips for a flattering cord shot?
Yeah.
I feel like that would mostly be with the posing panel.
Take a lot of photos.
That would be the big.
I will say one thing is, do not be close to your camera. Your camera has distortion, and the closer you get, the more distorted it is. Be far away.
Be as far as you can and still not like lose details from your camera.
And maybe remember to take lots of detail shots as well. So if you get like a picture of like the full body where you can't see all the details, then at least you have like really interesting detail shots to include with your post. That people can appreciate all of those.
Yeah, I really like seeing detail shots of people, like the bodice detail shots. Bodices are like some of my favorite parts of cords. So.
Especially when there were rings and they like pose with their fingers like.
So good. Love that. Yes. Okay, so I just wanted to, the last topic that we had really fast, was just tying it back to JFashion specific stuff. I wanted to talk about how social media has changed and affected JFashion culture, because obviously when JFashion was a thing, social media was not when JFashion first became a thing. So for me, the big things is that has changed is it has changed discoverability. I think JFashion is way more international than it used to be, and I do think that part of that is because of social media, because of how much easier it is to find this stuff now than it used to be. And the one negative that I've seen is that there's this perception to be like perfect. We've talked about this being perfect on social media, and like all your cords have to be beautiful. And then there's also feeling like you need to post something so people will dress up just to take a picture for social media. And I have been guilty of this myself, but it's also because like, so if you're doing that, just make sure that you are still dressing up for you and not for social media. Make sure it's something that you like, I want to wear my clothes today. And if I happen to take a picture and post it on social media, fine. But make sure it's still something you're doing for yourself to make yourself happy. And you're not trying to like prove things to the world, because I think that that's a very negative thing to do. Yeah, those are my two takes on that. Anybody else have more comments on how you think it's like affected JFashion culture?
I think you're right. It has changed so that people have this perception of like you need to do something perfect for social media, and we've lost a lot of that like like daily coordinate kind of like, remember like Daily Lolita on LiveJournal, and like they were like really casual, and like I've seen like complaints about like, oh, we feel like we need to do like OTT all the time, otherwise they won't get as many likes and stuff. I'd say go ahead and just post them. Do it. I want to see more casual. I'm a casual bitch.
No, seriously, it's like, it's true, because it's like, it's really hard. Like, even like me lately, like I've just been posting whatever the hell I feel like posting on my social media versus being like, oh, did I take a good outfit shots again? No, look, I was drinking wine and it would look really cool. So here, like, like I'm trying to be less worried about trying to be like, oh, is this like going to get a lot of likes and stuff like that? And just because again, like I got on social media just to like kind of like show off my styling skills and like, inspire other people, not like to necessarily like post the perfect thing every time, because it's like, you don't get paid for this, you know, in most cases. Like, this is not paying your rent. Some people, yes, if you're like super famous, but like most of us are just like, hey, we just want to show our cool stuff on the internet. We're not trying to sit here and become like the next like phenom of like, you know, our industry. Like, it doesn't pay our bills. So everything that we do is extra, you know, so don't like stress yourself out feeling like you need to be perfect and everything has to be like just post it. Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think that has changed in the community. Like, since the live journal community, it was much more of an echo chamber. It really was like, this is how we're doing Lolita fashion. This is how it is done. And I feel like every time there's a new channel and a new community, it just opens up the space so much more, so more people can enjoy it. And that, for me, is what the whole point of this was that we are creating space for people who have this interest to explore it, and whatever little tangent it takes them on, awesome, spectacular. And I am so thankful for how far the community has come, especially from those days of just like, well, you know, I just won't post then, now to, I will not post to this community because I know that they're going to be so detail oriented, like they're going to want me to do the fashion this way. Instead, I can post over to this community where it's a little bit more relaxed, or however your situation is. And I think it's the inverse as well for people who go ham on OTT, who like spend weeks and weeks building props. It's like, they should get all that celebration. They should be able to post and have people have their minds blown.
I love seeing progress in like stories of people making things like props and outfits and stuff. That's so exciting to see. It's like watching an outfit get built. It's so cool.
And like, I want all like I said, like OTT and like, you know, casual, like I want like everyone to be in the space and feel comfortable in it. Like, you don't feel like you need to be this and you don't feel like you need to be that. Like, just be yourself.
Yeah, for me, just the biggest positive of social media is that you can find things so much easier, and you can find inspiration. You can find people that are more like you, but also people that are different, do things different than you, and you can learn from them. And so there is a part of me that thinks that without social media or like some online presence, that maybe JFashion would have died a little bit. But I think because we have this capability to get new people in too from the younger generations. I think that's definitely boosted how many people are involved in it and how many people see it. And I think that's a great thing. I think the more people that dress weird, the better, because we want more people to be inspired by.
Yeah, we want to be a bad influence on the youth.
Yes. But yeah, okay, so we have a little over 10 minutes left. Do we want to take a few questions? I'll give people, I guess somebody just asked, I wanted to ask tips for growing a following on Twitter.
So
I don't use Twitter, so I have no idea.
Oh, okay. Make memes. No, I was kidding. I've been making Lolita memes on Twitter, and people like lose their mind, and I'm like, whoa, I didn't even know I could do this.
Wait, get those on Instagram too, please. I want to see.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, it's really interesting. Like, make memes. Get posted by bigger accounts. That's always a helpful one. And it's hard on Twitter because I feel like it's a lot of people like screaming. so you have to like find what you're going to be posting. So like, there's like people who are really funny and you just follow them because they're funny. And then there's people who only post photos and then you follow them because they only post photos. So find like your niche on Twitter and then go into that.
Yeah, I would say like leaving comments is more, it helps more than just like liking a tweet.
Yes.
Because that way you can like generate discussion and like help people see like your name and like your thoughts.
Yeah. And if someone like retweets your thing with a comment, retweet their retweet. Like it sounds really ridiculous and you'll maybe have like 10 of the same post on your feed. But if someone's like, whoa, I love this outfit, this is so cool, just retweet it. Like, you know, like it actually helps like boost the engagement a little bit, which is kind of interesting. And then people are like, oh, cool, this post is amazing. Like, you know, yeah.
So I think this question is more directed at Cake, but do you think YouTube is the ideal blogging platform for fashion? They're a regular blogger, and so they're wondering if they need to shift their video content to video content, sorry.
I would say if video content is something that interests you, like if it's something that you would like to learn to do, then I think that that would be a really good thing to explore. I think what it really comes down to is what your audience is using. So personally, I don't really follow many fashion accounts on YouTube, but I'm confident the community is there. I basically use YouTube for vlogging, and because Lolita is part of just what I do day to day, that's kind of how fashion kind of seeps into it. But I would, this is a very clinical answer, but I think you need to analyze your audience and see where they live and then plan your strategy that way. But I do think that it's probably worth exploring, especially with the community features. And assuming that you like making videos, because otherwise it's going to be a slog for you. And I do not recommend that. Yeah. Was that helpful? Did that answer your question?
Hopefully it did. We'll see if they respond. So this actually reminded me, though, because I think I forgot one thing in the intros, which was somebody asked any favorite Lolita YouTubers, and I realized we never posted our handles. Or we never said what our handles were. I don't think I did.
They've been linking it. I think in the really beginning
they linked them in the chat. Okay, cool. Well, Cake is a YouTuber, and she's one of my favorite YouTubers. So.
Hey.
Wait, let me pull up the other one that I really like. But go ahead if anybody else has favorites.
My favorite is Rose Nocturnalia.
Yeah, I was gonna say yes.
My favorite.
So good.
Oh
yes,
yeah.
Royal Goths. Follow her. She's amazing.
Yes.
Goths. That's all.
I was gonna say my other one I really like is Asami Moon. Something about like her voice and the way she speaks, like her mannerisms. I don't usually like unboxing videos, but I could watch her do a million of those because something about like the way she speaks and she interacts with the camera is very soothing, and I enjoy this greatly. Asami Moon. Someone said that in the chat as well. Any others?
I like Cake and Rose. I'm not on YouTube that much.
I went down like a rabbit hole of Lolita YouTubers, and now YouTube keeps suggesting them to me. So I think I have a list of like 10 or 20 that I followed or have like went through all their content, because I found a thread on Ruffle Chat about Lolita YouTubers, and there was just a million of them, and I watched all of that content, which was too much. Oh, F-balling. Okay, I'm good.
Okay.
Oh, no.
I'm on a very precarious little stool. Okay, so wait, there was a question before about Discord, I think from Sundere Lolita. There's been so many communities growing on Discord. Do any of y'all have any tips on how to navigate and keep up with Discord communities, especially JFashion ones? I feel like, Jessica, you would have the most to say about this.
I just learned about Discord. I did not know what Discord was before quarantine, and now I do. I would say keep in mind that some of the more like the fuller Discords move kind of quickly. Don't feel as if you have to be engaged in every single conversation. Post things that are on topic in the on topic channels. You know, like you can keep like ongoing conversations with people. Feel free to mute things if you're busy and you don't have time for that, because things are happening all at once all the time and you don't have to keep up with it. But yeah, it's a cool place to chat and talk about things casually, and I think that's fun. I don't know, that's not really like, that's like kind of an answer.
They're talking about, someone said it's really hard to navigate those big Discord servers. I don't think I'm in any of those, so I don't know what they're talking about.
I'm in a general JFashion one, and there's like a bunch of different channels. There's like a bunch of different things, you know, like like food, or like specifically outfits, or you know, your pets or whatever. Like, you know, if those specific things interest you, maybe just follow up on those channels, check what's going on in those channels, and like feel free to ignore what's going on in the other channels.
I think the main reason people have been switching to Discord too is because Facebook is kind of awful. Unfortunately, there's no place that has replicated the groups and event management as well as Facebook has it, and if they existed, then Facebook eats them. So,
yeah,
hot takes about that, but yeah. So, unfortunately, we're kind of stuck with Facebook for now. But I think that's why people have been moving to Discord, is to try to get at least like not be on it for talking to people. Facebook is rough, but it is the best place to find Lolita comms right now. But if your local community makes a Discord, that might be fun, because even if you want to be in charge of that, make it a Discord for your local community. It might be an easier way to chat with people than having the pressure of Facebook and like needing to make an event and stuff.
Yeah. One thing to keep in mind for Discord is, because it's like it's like kind of open chat, you know, everyone can chime in, whatever. Make sure you have a good mod team, and make sure that they are, I'm not saying that you need to have like really, really, like, they don't have to be on everyone's asses all the time, but make sure your rules are good and solid so that you don't have to deal with anything weird later on. Like, it's casual, but make sure that you keep your foot down.
Someone asked if the SF Bay Area EJL has a Discord, and it does. It's a little quiet, but we do, yeah.
Yeah, you can find it in the Facebook group. Feel free to message either me or Mindy to get a link.
Yeah. To find a link, I would just like point them to the Facebook post.
Yeah, but you know, like we can put you out.
Any sources they can look for specific Discord JFashion channels? Yeah, how did you find the one that you're in, Up6V?
I think Sarah invited me. I'm not sure. I would have to figure out like if that's like an open invite thing. I'm not really sure. But yeah.
Occasionally also, in Ruffle chat, people will make like, let's have a list of Discord servers. I don't think there's like a static list anywhere though.
Okay.
So this is sort of a question. How do y'all feel about Ruffle chat and like Closet of Frills on Facebook? Do you think that those are good, or do you think you prefer not to use them for whatever reason?
I don't use them.
I use them sometimes, but it's not my favorite. And yeah, they're okay. They're okay. Sorry.
There's a question asking, what is Ruffle Chat?
Yeah, so Ruffle Chat is a Facebook group for Lolitas to talk about different Lolita content. People ask. Sometimes they'll ask like really newbie questions. Sometimes they'll just be like, I want to see your dream dresses and stuff like that. Sometimes they're really interesting comments or like new discussions that I haven't seen before, and people would just comment on it, and then the poster can read it. I do think that there's sometimes interesting topics, but there is also a lot of, I don't want to say trash or garbage, but
there is. Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot where I'm like,
sorry.
No.
It's just a full group, and so because of that, there's a range of content, and some of it's not the best.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot. I still think there's some people in that group where I'm like, you are not here because you care about Lolita. Like, you're here to start problems. Like, I do feel like there's troublemakers in both of those groups, just because they're not understanding the nuance of the fashion or why people are dressing a certain way. And then there's like a lot of really weird discourse that happens, and I feel like every like 2 years we have the same like, should you wear a petticoat? Like, you know, kind of discussion. And I'm like, can we not? Like, I thought we were done with this. Like,
what do you think of blouseless cords?
yeah, exactly.
I don't like blouseless cords. I've never done that.
Exactly.
It's not Lolita if you're not wearing a top.
Exactly.
Can't show your shoulders. That was the rule.
Oh.
That is one thing I will say that I really like about like Instagram is I feel like it's your own feed, so if someone doesn't like it, then they don't have to be there. So yeah, I like that. I like that posting on Instagram better than posting on Closet or Frills, because I didn't realize this, but I posted on Closet Frills like twice, and I didn't realize that the default is to accept concrete, and you have to specifically say you don't want concrete, which I feel like is a weird thing in the Lolita community. But anyways, yeah, that's why I don't personally like it.
I mean, in general, they're fine. It's like the closest thing we have to a centralized source of information since LiveJournal died. If you learn to ignore like the trolls, you'll have a okay time.
That's totally true. That's totally true.
Ignoring the trolls on every every social media is important. Okay, I think it's 1:30. The next panel is a Moire girl panel. It starts at 1:45. It should be a really cute panel that Petite Madeline is running. Yeah, any last topics or comments? Or I think I had a really fun time talking with y'all. I feel like this was a really good discussion. I hope people in the chat liked it too.
Yeah, don't forget to leave us feedback. Maybe the JFashion On Demand can give us the feedback link down below, so we know what you liked. If you love us, if you hate us, troll us.
Specifically for the panel too, like if there's something you want to know. But why are you asking people to troll?
I'm kidding. Please don't bully.
Please don't troll. Please no bully.
No.
All right. Okay, we'll sign off now. Thanks everybody.
Okay, bye. Thanks everyone.
Thank you so much.